Welcome to the very first Goon multiplayer tournament Rise of the Samurai for our Let's Play. Currently it's Yukitsu versus GenericServices, who is the Taira, Yukitsu is the Minamoto. As you can see, Yukitsu's army is 2 mounted Naginata, the general bodyguard, 2 bow attendants, a Naginata warrior monk, Naginata levy, some bow levy, 2 Naginata warrior monks actually, and the bow hero is his elected hero. On the other side here, GenericServices has 2 bow warrior monks, so he's gone reasonably ranged heavy, and Naginata warrior monks, and on both sides there, so 2 of them, 2 sword attendants, and Naginata attendant, and of course his mounted samurai hero, which is his elected hero. So let's see what's going on today. Now, my initial assessment of the situation is that they're about evenly matched with respect to range. GenericServices has the superior bow warrior monks, but Yukitsu has the numbers advantage. Now, the real issue here at the moment is that we have a huge cavalry disparity. With 2 mounted Naginata, Yukitsu will be able to specify the terms and conditions of this fight if GenericServices tries to do anything particularly fancy. So, at this point in time, he's got to do a fairly tight defensive formation. He does have a fairly large number of spears, and as such, that should negate most of the cavalry. But my first thing that I'm noticing is that he's not being aggressive skirmishing with the mounted samurai hero. Now, the mounted samurai hero has a range of 200, which means that he can shoot further than all the other bowmen in the game. As you can see, he's just putting some shots into these Naginata warrior monks, which is a good choice. They're dangerous units and should be minimized. Now, at the moment, GenericServices has made a bit of a mistake, in my opinion, because he hasn't used the extra range on the bow warrior monks. Now, I believe it's got a 45-second cooldown at the start of the game, so it may not be up yet, but it's entirely possible that it is, and that should have been the first thing that gets popped, so he gets the first volley off. As it is, we've got a nice exchange of arrow fire between the 2 sides, and casualties are pretty reasonable on both. GenericServices has lost around 15-20 men, and Yukitsu's lost about 30, so that's about right for our ratios of cost to numbers. As you can see, Yukitsu is very aggressively using his mounted Naginata to skirmish and force the mounted samurai hero and the general back, while at the same time doing a secondary feint on the bows to this side, forcing a withdrawal. This is a very, very good tactic because it means that you're getting free shots onto your opponent's army while he's not shooting back, maximizing your firepower advantage and basically meaning that you can dictate the terms of the battle. Now, the first thing I look at when I see this is that there is a lot of charge firepower here. The 2 sword attendants, the 2 Naginata warrior monk attendants, and I'm sure GenericServices is kicking himself about this because I'm seeing a huge, juicy bunch of bowmen with basically terrible melee statistics backed up by some levy. Not really terrifying. He has Nagi monks on the flanks, but GenericServices has Nagi monks on the flanks as well, so that would be a solid counter, and a full forward charge would really put the pressure on. But as it is, the battle is being dictated right here by Yukitsu, who is just absolutely murdering with those cavalry. He's really keeping the pressure on and just not letting any battle plan of GenericServices take light. And this is really becoming a bit of an issue. Now, the other thing that was possible, and this is nice, putting shots into the back of the mounted Naginata as they flee, is with the range of the mounted samurai hero, bring them up behind the bow monks, have them support as range to bring a little bit extra range firepower. They're mobile ranged units. Now this is bad. You should never ever let your general get caught by the mounted Naginata, and it's just a 2-pronged attack with these Naginata warrior monks. Now they've been war-cried and as such have fled, and there's really no war cry going. No counter war cry. This is because they're out of range. These sword attendants, they have Banzai. It will give them a large charge attack bonus and make them unbreakable for the duration. When they're wavering, hit Banzai. You'll get another 30 seconds of combat fighting out of them, and sometimes that can be all you need to hold the line. But right now, things are looking really, really bad for GenericServices. Yukitsu's put his general in stand and fight, and I'm going to say that will pretty much be the end of it. With the bonus morale they will receive from stand and fight, in addition to the extra melee defense, GenericServices just doesn't have a chance. He's been pushed off the battlefield here, his general has fled, and the mounted samurai hero crippled, and it's just a chain route across the board. Basically, if I had to say what Generic Services' main flaw was in this particular fight, the first was he failed to realize that he had a large infantry advantage, but lacked a cavalry advantage, and as such needed to push his infantry advantage. A full frontal charge in that scenario would have forced Yukitsu to react to his game rather than letting Yukitsu play the game that he wants to play, and would mean that he has the opportunity to exploit holes, especially with his mounted samurai hero. And in addition, he just didn't use abilities. He didn't inspire with his general, there was no rally with his general, he didn't use stand and fight, his sword attendants, they didn't use bonsai, and his Naginata warrior monks, they didn't use warcry. A substantial percentage of his combat force's power was in those abilities, which if you don't click them, they don't do anything for you. And so that was really why he got beaten. It looked incredibly comprehensive, but it really wasn't. The real issue was that he didn't use his abilities, and that's just the difference between a flank holding and a flank collapsing, and that just can make all the difference. Well, that was a great first fight, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I hope to see you all there.